Currently, no legislation exists compelling a business to disclose data breaches to its information security. With the rise of cybercrime in recent months, what legal recourse is available to those affected? Senior Associate at Cliff Decker Hofmeyer Fatima Ameer-Mia joins me now from Cape Town to discuss this. Amir, if we can look at the whole control in South Africa of cybercrime, are there controls that are strong enough? Because we're seeing a lot of breaches of late.
Hi, Mateo. At present, there are no legislative controls which are currently in force. So by that, what I mean is the Protection of Personal Information Act has been promulgated, but the substantive provisions are not yet in force. There is also a proposed draft cybercrime and cybersecurity bill, which was tabled in Parliament a few months ago, but that also, it's still in quite draft form. So to answer your question, at present there's a lack of regulatory and legal framework, so to speak, for cybercrimes and information security.
Surely, even without those controls, I mean, private companies should be looking to invest more in information technology, and in so doing also checking out their security, but it seems they're getting the most breaches.
Absolutely, and you're 100% correct there. I think the problem is that POPI is not yet in force, and so there's no legal requirement, so to speak, for a company to implement information security measures. However, that being said, it's massive reputational as well as financial risk for a company to not have those measures in place. So I think that POPI is definitely imminent, and businesses should definitely be implementing information security procedures in place.
We've seen the breach of 30 million people, and also Standard Bank seeing the breach in Japan, and a lot of these happen, these cyber crimes. But how, as a consumer, can you go to a company and say, look, I've lost some money from your card, maybe if it's a bank, and I need my money back? Where can you go if there are no regulations in place?
So currently, there's limited recourse for an individual. What they'd have to do is they can claim compensation by instituting a claim for the infringement of privacy, and that's regulated under the law of delict. So essentially, the claimant will have to go to court. They'd have to prove a monetary loss, and also that the data breach was the cause of this monetary loss. And if they're successful with this claim, they'll be awarded damages by a court. But unfortunately, this is often a costly and complicated process. However, once POPI does come into force, it will be more regulated, and there will be more legal recourse available to the consumer. The information regulator will have a complaints process. There will be administrative penalties and fines for companies, and POPI also does provide for civil action and class action in the event of a data breach.
If you could just break down for us how POPI will work when it's in place. I mean, how will it, protect consumers?
Thanks, that's a good question. So basically, POPI places obligations on responsible parties, which is anybody who collects personal information of a data subject. And a data subject is a living person as well as companies. And POPI puts in place quite stringent conditions for processing of personal information. And one of those conditions is that an organization must take reasonable and technical and organizational measures to secure the data which they have in their possession or control. Consumers will also have various rights. So the data subject will be able to request what information a company holds on their behalf, who they share that information with. They have the right to request a company to stop processing their personal information, and also the right to rectify or correct information which is held.
But of course, POPI is not in place yet, so how can consumers, look out for these cyber crimes and all these scams that are going around?
That's difficult. I think in the absence of POPI being in force, consumers and individuals generally just need to be a bit more aware and conscious of when they disclose their personal information to companies. I think one of the ways of doing that is to read the terms and conditions carefully before you sign something or you click accept. Read the privacy policy, find out what your information is going to be used for, who it's going to be shared with, how it's going to be stored. In the absence of POPI being in place, there's no real rights that a data subject would have. However, once it does come into force, as I said earlier, there will be much more rights which data subjects have.
Definitely some loopholes in South Africa's cyberspace there. That was Senior Associate at Cliff Decker Hofmeyer, Fatima Ameer-Mia.